And now I'm going to get this out of the way. And now I'm going to show you the thing. You still can see everything, right?
Yes.
All right, here we go. All right, basically, I'll make it larger. Uh, the beautiful part of this is you can operate. You start right out, you have your database. And your database is where you store all your customers, okay? And the beautiful part is you can take your enter new ones here, or you can go here. And now we have the expanded list. Now the purpose of the expanded list is you can't see everything, but you can import by clicking here, and you then take your Excel file and you put it in, and then you can load it all in. Now I have a small database in there right now, but I can load a large one in, and just as long as I put it in the right sequence. Okay. Now we're going to go in and show the actual customers. This is a customer listing. We're going to go in and see the customer. And here's all the information that's stored in the database. So it's there. And what happens is this database then will automatically load into the other one, as I will illustrate. So we'll get out of the database. And we'll now go into the proposal phase. Now, the access that comes in is based on what you have available to you, okay? So here's your proposal. I'm going to take you through the flow of one to give you an idea. There you saw, you click that one button and you would enter a new one. And then here's one that's already in. We'll go into the workflow. Now the beauty is that you don't have to input all this information. It is automatically loaded in once you identify the customer, and I'll show you that. In other words, you select the customer out of the database, and then it automatically puts in these numbers for you, other than the job number that you will assign at the time. In other words, everything is made so that things are done rapidly without a lot of time involved. You can get out a proposal in less than 5 minutes. Now, sometimes you want a special ID, and that's optional. You just skip over it if you don't want. But you can put in the RFQ number, the customer job number, and the project office. If you want a different project office, you can put it in. Or you can input a new office and, let's say, put in Fresno or whatever office it is. Now we'll go further. The power of a workflow is that only what you are authorized to put in or see is be seen, and the program manager controls that. Now this is the control panel. This is what controls what workflows you have. In this case, this was set up on detail, but you also can use labor and cost or total price, and we had the customers wanted to have it where sometimes their customer didn't have access to all the detailed information. They only want the price given. They don't want to see the detail. And here's where you actually come in and you pick whatever one it is. Now, in this case, we have boundary research. Let's say we went into exhibit mapping, and you go save. Well, exhibit mapping is also the same one, so I picked the wrong one. Tenant tracking, how's that? You see how I changed to W2? Or we want to go back to boundary research?
May I
No,
ask a question real quick?
sure.
So with the information that's in the drop downs there, like you were changing on the request area,
Mm-hmm.
how was that list created, or where did that come from?
That came from the database. You
Okay,
port it into the database, and all that information comes up automatically. Now this
got it.
picks out one of 26 particular services that are available, and you can make a workflow for it. In this case, I have 6 work paths that have commonality, but there's maybe 3 or 4 in each one of those workflows, but we cover a total of 36. Now, there's an
Wonderful.
option to have research or not. In this particular case, I have research. So now we're going to go to the next one. I'm not going through the. It's made to save time, and it's made to retain information that you have access to at any time. That's the whole point. All right, now that we have the control panel, this is where the requirement is fine-tuned. And usually you have an RFQ or statement of work. You attach it here. If you want to see it, you can click here. And we'll open it. And there's the statement of work. The beautiful part is all your reports and everything, you can generate out PDFs and email them.
That's really cool.
There we go. Now we're going to go on. In other words, you get the idea. You could type in here any information you want to make a reference or whatever you want in a contract. All this information here came up over automatically from the database. In other words, the power of a database is very essential. Now that we have the requirement, here's customer information. Now you don't input that other than you can update it.
And just to clarify, Arthur, you're only showing one module, right? This is purely the proposal generating.
Yeah, I'm going to show the other in a minute. We're going to step through.
I just want to make that point, though. It's just one module.
Yeah, but this is basically all this information here came in from the database, but you could go ahead and update and make changes at this point, and it'll change back in the database as well. So,
does it happen with the database? Does it happen to help make the relationships between the different tables?
Yes, it does.
Beautiful.
Now you have the customer information. Here's contact information. Now it may not be the same, but you can change it, and you have a summary down here that you can pull from that where it came from the other information of the database, but you can make changes at this point. This address and everything is going to wind up in the proposal. Now you may change who the contact is at this point and change his title. It's whatever you want, but it's there for you automatically. It's quite unique. They have made vast improvements on what they had before, and it slowed me up for a little bit, but I'm sure glad I did because it really is working beautifully. Now here I put in the address of the house I had. I built this home. And now I'm going to come down here and put it on satellite mode. And then we'll come down a little bit further, and now I'm going to make that larger. The whole point is that you can take pictures. That's the home I built. Now, in this particular, this is the home. It was a gated community, and I had 8 acres. There's the solar panels I had. These here heated the house, and these were for electrical power. I had lines running into it, but I won't get into that. The whole point is,
looks great.
If you have the street, many streets are that you can pull this little man over and have street views. That is in a lot of cases you have that. Okay, we'll go on to the next.
If you decide you need more solar panels, I've got a great connection for you on that.
Well, I don't want to do that big again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, this is where the posting. Now the posting, this little icon here is in the list that was shown on the proposal. All right. I'll give you an idea of the research. Now, the beautiful thing is you can navigate all over and see where you are. No. Okay, now here's where the research is. And here's basically the status because it's already been done. So then you know it was completed and the date it was completed. This is the requirement. And all the information you put in earlier is there, and you can add some additional information. For instance, if you want to see the exhibit map, there's the exhibit map. Of course, you can make it larger, but we're not going to bother with it right now. And this is where you put in the results. And again, you can click on any one of these and see the actual document. And this way you retain all the information you want. Say, for instance, you want to see the plans.
Arthur, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So seeing these documents populating these fields, were you able to set it up to where you could reach out to somebody and they could, say, drag and drop this document into this area?
Oh, no.
Or is this...
As long as it's on the computer, you can pull it up and attach it. In other words, you load it in as you're doing the research. So on your computer, you will browse and then pull up this map.
Okay. And how did you receive this information? Was it via email from people, or?
That's up to the researcher to get that information. We don't do that for him. That's for him to
Okay.
But I have contacts, and so for instance, I have links that we can bring down, townships, we can bring down latitude, longitude, and all that type of thing also.
Interesting.
Now, many times you have, for instance, the deed information you want. Now, this usually is out of public records. Every state has it differently. But you can see here, it was my track number on my old home. Okay? Now, I was on lot 10. And that's what the record was. But I got a different name here. I got the title as William Blacksmith, because I don't have that home anymore. All right. Let's get out of research. Let's go to that flow. In other words, we're using the power of a database to drive our results. Now we're going to go in and see it actually. And then we'll get on into the next phase. I don't want to take up too much time for you guys, but here we go. Now this was on work path 1, and that was determined originally when we selected that, and there were 6 different paths. In fact, we're going to follow the same customer over on it. We ran that for detailed, if you remember. And here was where you can input the values that you want in the proposal, or you can change them if you want. If you want to see, for instance, here you've got an associate, he gets 85 an hour. Okay, as soon as it stops, I'll show you. In other words, it automatically calculates out everything. But now you remember something. The whoever, I see it changed to $1.50 an hour instead. And now we're going to go back to the other. Let's see, what do we have, an associate? I think so. It's 85 an hour. Anyhow, we'll calculate out for each one of the tasks that are involved. You can see here it's based on a principal. He gets 150 an hour. That's a top-notch piece. Then you have, for instance, an associate is 85 an hour. So this all comes along, and we're going to cancel that because we don't want to make a change. Now we go to the table. Now automatically, these values up here, the total proposal was 90 hours. The labor cost was $9,495. Of that, $645 are expenses. And the total cost was $10,140. Now you can see here, you have a record of what they were. Field investigation, car and mileage, $45. We had a project meeting and with the customer, and it was $40 for refreshments. Now here the team is in the field, and they're in there 3 days, which is 36 hours, and they have a total of $360 who were involved. Now you see these totals here? They're up here. So that table then is preceded, and when we do the actual contract, you'll see them again. Okay, let's go and show what happens to it.
So Arthur, just to interject, the power of this is this may have been a project with 4, 5, 6 people working remotely.
Exactly.
I believe with the Intellect app function, could they literally have done some of this through their smartphones? Is that realistic to say that?
Either iPhone, Apple, or they can do it with Android. Either one.
Got it.
But
Okay.
again, they can only have access based on whatever the administrator sets up.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't go into that right now because I'll slow us down. But here's your proposal. You can change any information. For instance, here's 30 days. You could change that to 20 days. Limit the proposal. Here's your RFQ that came in when you first came in. So that information is there. Here's your labor costs. Here's your task expenses. And here's the table that gave those, and it's all ready for the edit. Now that any of this information can be changed at this point. All right, now let's look at the actual printed proposal. It's quite, I think it's fantastic, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, this could really function as an enterprise.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I could do it myself, but I have a friend called Steve, and he's doing it. Now, there's a nice thing about, I have one in the control panel. I can show you. There's 720 reports like this, okay, with headers, signatures, and bottom. I can, within 15 minutes, change every one of those in all 720, okay? But here is the proposal ready to go out, and say I want to print it, okay? I'm going to send it. And I'm going to do, I'm going to set it so I can have all the stuff. Now I'm going to print it. Let's just take a minute. It's going to come up and ask if I want to open. And we do. Now you can see here, and there is the proposal of page 1, all ready to go. You can see it summarized. But on page 2, we'll actually have the table. Now, you have the option here of printing, or you can save it as a document. You can make it larger. But again, you can mail this to your customer. So let's get out of there. You can see the power of it. I mean, if you have to have someone type up and get every of these things out, it takes time. This way, and an administrator or whoever is in the office can knock out one in just a few minutes.
With the reporting that you were just showing, or the proposals, does it have the logic to where, based on certain things being chosen, it will actually add in different paragraphs or pull different paragraphs of language out?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So here, yeah, there you have a selection for languages. I just don't know. My French I've forgotten, and my Spanish only have a few words I can say. but you can do that, yes. So
thank you. Basically,
I will be marketing this all over the world, and I'm going to leave it up to my dealers and other countries to help me with the language conversions. But you can see, here's the proposal. I can do the same thing, and I can print that, and all the details here will be sent out. But it may not be the option to show all that information. I think I'm going to skip going any further on this. I think we're going to get right into the next phase, because I know you gentlemen want to get started on something else. This is the actual after you get the contract. Now you could put a new one by clicking here, but we're going to go ahead and see one that's already been done. Now here it is here. It's thinking. Okay. Now, this is where you actually post in. Now, this one here, if you had insert, it would have given you who you wanted to select to input new. This ID here came from the proposal. In other words, you don't want to waste time. Everything is to save time. Okay, now this is where you would have the posting of the customer, and you have the alternative to change or assign different people. Now, for instance, here, this is the secretary for this. It's my granddaughter's name, actually. But you can pick from a list of people that have been authorized by the administrator to do particular functions. And this is accounting. I made up Don Brown. He's a phony, but I made up an email for him anyhow. If I had signed, let's say, John Trump, that would have been a different email. But we're going to stay with Bob. I like Donald Trump. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next one. And see, now it automatically sent out an email because I just went and, in other words, what I've done here is I've got it set up so that it automatically sends out emails just before you do a particular phase. And then that person knows it's time for him to do the job. Okay.
Just to clarify, Arthur, this is all hosted by Intellect in the cloud, is that correct? Or
that's right. This is actually, they use Amazon, and so it can be anywhere in the world. Yeah. They have hookups everywhere. Okay, now,
and
go ahead.
Quick question with the email part of it. Does it have full HTML markup capabilities? Can you make the email pretty and put pictures and that kind of stuff?
Yes. Well, no. The email is messages you have here. It's the whole attempt of the email in this particular case is to notify the person that has been assigned that next task. And I will illustrate it when we get going through here.
Okay.
Now here's the heart of what controls everything. Now here we decided detail. However, we could have had total price or labor and cost, but we chose detail here. We set up for time and material. We could have gone fixed price, but we wanted time and material. I don't want to follow up what I've done already. This is to use email before tasks. That's an option. In other words, if I didn't do that, it wouldn't send out the email. I have it set to do that. Then, do I want to adjust proposal cost? Yes. If I didn't, I'd be like that, okay? In other words, you have, for instance, you may have a case where the customer renegotiates the price factor to get the job. So you would go in and renegotiate. Completely update the research that gives you that opportunity, and it's controlled in the workflow. And investigate the site, you have an option to investigate or not. Some small companies don't want to investigate. Project meeting, whether to hold one or not, some don't think it's necessary. Review the task, yes, you want to review it, and that's to make sure that it's done right. If it's a small company, they will select not to review because it's the same damn person. Excuse the English. Then final report to write it or not. Some companies don't bother to write reports. Now here's the invoicing. You have choices. You can have a first invoice or not. You can have a second invoice or not. And you can have a third invoice. Now that doesn't limit you to 4 invoices, but it does facilitate having those for you. Okay. Now let's go. All right. This is a posting of information. And I won't go through all of that, but I got to take these out. I can see that's an old one here. All right, here's my site map. And there's my house again. And you got the idea. I'm not going to brag anymore. You got the idea.
That's really impressive. I can see the time and attention that went into it.
Let's get out of, I want to go up one. Yeah, you know, it took me a long time. In fact, I have a friend that said I took too long. That friend is my wife. All right, now we're going to go into the heart.
How much time was involved with the background support for everything you've created here so far? That's huge.
The programming's simple. It's the research of knowing the details of what you want. Okay, here we're going into the task.
And then when you were making this, does it have like different user interface capabilities, or like I think they call them a wrapper for a program?
I don't quite understand.
So like to make sure I'm understanding the program correctly, the workflow portion of this here, this is phenomenal to be able to map out how each of the steps should go and make sure there's not something missing. And if there is, you can click to get to it. But
what I did is I went to, actually I had a gentleman called Victor that was actually contacted me because we were both veterans, and he wanted, for his survey company, he wanted to automate it into business process management. So what we wound up doing is he provided me with the workflows, and now he's going to be a dealer.
Can I just jump in for a second? I want to elaborate on that if I could.
You can.
This is about 4 years ago, I'm guessing.
It is.
I could be wrong on that, but about that. Arthur and I were working together and talking about doing some BPM. And I got a list of veteran-owned businesses throughout California. So I was just cold calling. I was phoning, randomly calling businesses to say, I understand you're veteran-owned. We are interested in working with veterans and giving them a deal. And, if they help us create a workflow for their industry, we can possibly do it for free or whatever. And about the 4th call I made was up, I think, in Paso Robles, if I'm not mistaken. And it was
Santa Maria. Longpole. It
was a guy named Victor Rascato, and he was a land surveyor. And I knew nothing about the land surveying business as compared to civil engineering or anything else. And I called him, and he picked up. I said, hey, Mr. Rascato, Steve Lonzer with Agile Business. We are looking for vertical markets to develop BPM, business process management solutions for. And he said, oh my God, he said, I was just this week thinking, would it be great if there was some kind of software to make my life easier and that I could possibly market to other land surveyors. I mean, it was just incredible, good fortune and a coincidence. And then Arthur, being the bright young fellow he is,
yeah, I'm 80.
And he has dedicated the last several years of his life to building what has got to be the best enterprise management suite of software for that industry ever put together. He's got two different companies that want him desperately to market with them. One, of course, is Romeo and Intellect, but there's another much larger company that has a bigger global footprint called Process Maker. And Arthur has spoken with their CEO, Brian Riel, a number of times. They have begged him, absolutely begged him, to build this on their platform because they have a multilingual capability, which gets back to what you were asking about earlier. I guess it was
But let me state something. They have that.
Right.
They have that here now too.
Oh, he does. Okay, great.
Okay. Now they didn't. They didn't in the past.
But the point I wanted to make was, especially to Mike and Matthew, that is how badly needed I believe BPM is. Where this is why our business model of going to folks like you guys, QuickBooks advisors, and saying, look, you probably have customers that could benefit from BPM and BI, and we want to work with you to identify who those customers are and then build a solution. And then, of course, the beauty of it is you can then potentially market that to anybody else, either in the same vertical market or even if you're just doing common, badly needed processes for mid-sized companies. It doesn't have to be industry specific. But you can see the power of this. I think we have a unique opportunity in terms of timing and the fact that Arthur, all by himself, it did take him a long time, but the fact is he's now gotten so good at this, I think he could be tossed into any other vertical market with a smart person like Victor helping him. I think he could do it in probably 2 or 3 months. I hope I'm not overstating.
No, you're absolutely right. Let me give clarification. You saw the home I built. I lost $11 million. Okay, to my own stupidity, I invested that. So all my computers, everything I had was gone, and we had to live in the car. So coming down the coast, I met Steve. And that's how we met. The point is that when I got hold of equipment, it was bad. And so it was corrupted, and it kept causing problems for engineer. And so I contaminated their site with my bad. I put viruses and everything in on their equipment because I had bad equipment. And then we blamed them for what I had caused, all right? But their product was not as good as Process Maker. So Process Maker said, come on over. I started to go over that, and then all at once, Engineer came out with a new product. I started studying over Process Maker, and I liked the new product here better at the time. However, they have done a catch-up now, and they have a good one too, but I want to get this going out on this one. This one, they both are very comparable, but as pointed out by Steve, Process Maker is much larger organization throughout the world, and is from a marketing standpoint is a better connected. But they're making the right investments at Engineer now, and they're coming along. So the point is that like for instance, I have a realtor waiting. As soon as I get done doing the civil engineer, and I have another civil engineer waiting now, and I'm going to be doing it as soon as this marketing starts here. Then we will do that, and then I got that realtor lined up, and I'm going to do real estate the same way and take the workflows. So the answer is probably 90 days, but probably 60 days. 6 months is probably more accurate, depending on the complexity. Now, this is built in, so it's doing calculations and everything, And this engineer tells me they don't have any customers that do anything that goes into that much detail. In other words, mostly they're scheduling and taking pictures and things like that. Where this goes in and actually calculates. Now this here, remember in the proposal we did this one. We can now come in and make changes here, and based on the customer interface. And when you do so, I'm going to hurry it up because I'm taking up too much of your time.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Mike and Matthew, did you guys say you had a 12:15 where you had to stop? Or
We do, yeah. We do have a 12:15, but I mean, this is just fascinating.
Just one more clarification. Engineer was the previous name of intellect. So when he says engineer,
Right.
Yeah.
he's actually referring to the present day intellect.
I fall back in. You got to give an 80-year-old.
I know.
But that
I'm
update would show
so
this
impressed.
table, which will be utilized in the actual invoicing. Okay, let's get up.
Wait, throughout your process, especially when you're doing like your calculations of the different areas,
Yes.
did that require special like Java coding at all, or was it just
No,
like
no,
traditional formula?
not at all. It's all built in.
Awesome.
It's built in. You don't have. When I wrote programs, when I had my software company, actually I calculated in C and I had to put in the equations. But here, no, it's all built in. Okay, you have your cost adjustments. You have project meeting or not. It's a decision to have it or not. Investigate. For instance, if you did investigate, you have information to.
So the previous, Arthur, the previous one was doing a proposal in that module. Now, is this the project management module?
Yes, this is after the award of the contract. That's when you load this in, okay? This is actually doing the tasks. So in other words, you had negotiations with the customer and he's happy. Now, this is the field. Based on this, on whose name is in here, and it can be any one of the employees that you have, this allows you to have the control who's going to go on to that task. And if your name isn't on the next task, you are taken out of the program, all right? And by the way, when you are there and you leave this, it sends an email. It's built in. So
what I heard of that is
So I
you
would
can,
receive
through
an
the
email.
process, you can actually toss the assignments back and forth to different people
Exactly.
automatically.
and
That
based
is-
on what they are doing. Now, when we actually do the job, here's the investigation. We come in and give the record. There's support with like Vic here, and investigation, and completed the task. And here's the notes that are solved on it, and the site is ready to complete the boundary research on the site. So you went in the field, you found out what it was there, and now you're going to put in a cost factor. But now here the employee may not be privy to cost factors, all right? Because he may not. So this comes in, and you put in the time of the meeting. Okay, the field investigation, it took 5 hours and car mileage, and you put in the expense. That you have, in other words, you pick out of a list expenses, or if you have a new type, you click there and put it in. But there's that 5 hours, okay? Now you don't see any cost factors because the person doing the field investigation may not be wanting to see the cost factors. But now I will show you what you can do. In other words, what's happening. We calculate the cost every step of the way so you can invoice at any time. Actually, I have a menu that I can do the invoicing on. But here's the accounting. I keep it over here. And that, by the way, you have to be cleared to open that. In other words, you have settings. But here is the investigation table. And those figures there are picked up, and they keep getting larger as you keep doing different tasks but you know that you spent a total investigating of 850 hours total. And what did you do? You had, that was to conduct the research, review the requirement, took no expense. To conduct the research, we had special documents, it was $50. Field investigation, 50. And this table here is further, and the reason it's further, because this table here reflects further down the line, okay? This is, in other words, calculates on down. We haven't done all that yet, okay? In other words, at this particular juncture. But the table doesn't know that. Had you been going through the first time, you would only see up to that field investigation. Do we understand? Okay.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Now I can port all this information out to QuickBooks, okay? But I don't have the interface. All I have is the I have to put it out into a spreadsheet. But I need to work with someone to get that interface, and we could go.
Hi.
All right. But here is, for instance, here was that car and mileage. Here's the amount, but you see now there's the expenses. But the employee doesn't need to know that, you see?
Interesting.
Now we're going to see what an invoice looks like. Now, the problem with the invoice now is that we've actually done all 4 invoices, okay? In other words, we've gone all the way through. So we're going to go now into an invoice, and we want to go into the first one. And this is for the assignment. This is to verify you have the right to go in here. And if you're not Don Brown, they won't let you go any further. But if you wanted, instead of having an email go to him, you can pick up the phone and call him. But he'll still get the email because that's built in. So we're going to do time and material. That's a safe way if you get a contract, time and material. And we got a detailed one going here. Now, before actually doing an invoice, it's important to get an idea of what the status is. So you review all the information. Right here, this was set up on generate, and this is the last one to be generated. But your labor costs spent, you know what's already been spent totally through the whole contract here. But you come down and you can look and review here what the actual bid was that you adjusted for. And you can see if you've gone over, and in case here you've spent more than was bid. But apparently you had the opportunity to get the customer to do more. Now you can change the price on this next one I'll show you.
You know, we work with a company, it's called Notify, that specifically does like construction job costing.
Yes.
And now having seen this here,
Yes.
My mind's racing of how it could be built better.
Yeah. Well, maybe I could team up with you guys. All right. I'm 80. Actually, I'm in pretty good shape. This here is...
Doesn't seem like it's stopping you.
May I be so fortunate at your age?
I could change at this point what the invoice was going to be. But this is what in other words, there were 4 invoices done. And that doesn't limit us to those four, but you can go more, and I'll show you on the next step. But Don Brown is doing all the accounting and invoiced, and there's when he did the invoice. And you can change that if you want now. But this can be changed to a new figure if you want.
Now, this should be pretty easy, of course, but it can keep an ongoing record of all those changes, right?
Oh yeah, they're here. I'll show you.
So much.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to show you right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and we got a complete record, and you can print up any invoice that you've done before. Now here's all the invoices. See? Now see here? There's the second invoice. That's the second invoice.
There we go.
That was completed, okay? I can change that to the first. But if I have the second, I can go on and actually print. Now let's do that first, and then we'll go back. Mr. Park. Go ahead.
One important question I'm hoping to be able to kind of get to before we run out of time is on the import of information and the export of information, if this has some form of a mapping system to it. And what I mean by that is data is going to come in so many different versions.
Yes.
Perfect.
I have to have them in the same order as it is. And that information I provide. Now see that? There's the second invoice. Okay, this is page 1 of 2 because it's too much information to go onto one. I won't bother to print, but you saw how I can make a PDF of that, which we can mail. And there's the date and everything right there, all right? But you can see that is the second invoice. Now we're going to go back. And I won't do the detail until I change it. There's quite a few things we can do here. Now, see right here? Now, I want to put up the first one now. So I'm going to come in here, and that's 57. They increase the sequential. And I'll now click Save. And now you'll notice that that's the first invoice that Don Brown did, all right? Now we're going to back up. And there, you can see that it's the first invoice. You sent me an email, Steve. Now I'm going to show you this second page. And there's the second page. You can see it's still first invoice. And any one of the 4 invoices you can, but you see the details that show all of it. But again, you see this shows for all 4 invoices that have been done. Now, say I made a mistake. I know I never do that, but let's say I made a mistake. Go back in here. I charged them too much on that one. We're gonna go back and change that right now. I won't actually change it because I don't want to. But right now I can change the amount. I can change the amount, change the status. Okay? And if I want to change that to a different price, I can. I can click save, and that will then be on that invoice, and I can then come here and change the date of the invoice. And then that, well, I'll save that. I'm not going to change the amount. I had John come through that one. I could have changed it right now, though. Now, the date's changed. How about that? The second one was done before the first one. But you can get the concept. The whole point is, for instance, if I want to go and see the last one.
Arthur, being that we're running out of time, could you maybe just show an overview of the different apps or different modules altogether that you've got developed?
I'm not too sure I'm following, but...
Well, how many modules are there in your system?
Oh, okay. I got you.
I'm just thinking we're running out of time. I want them to kind of get the breadth of what can be accomplished.
All right. Let me see here.
So I assume each of those little icons were different apps in a sense, or different portions of the big.
That's right. In other words, I have site information, I have management, I have employee records, okay, where I control the employee. This is management control. This is the home, which shows everybody, and all the together. It's too busy. Then you saw the customer database. Then this one here is basically for Android or iPad. Same with this one. And this is where you do the design. And this is administrative control. So basically the key ones that most of the employees will see will be the customer database, which you saw, the proposal, and then the contract. Now the employee there's manuals. I don't have those hooked up right now.
That's really neat. We've always talked about doing something just like that, having where all the company information's there, tutorials, all of that. So that's really neat.
Yeah.
Would you mind clicking on the design?
I changed my mind on some things, and then Steve said, "Oh, here, this is important." Well, it stops there, and then I'll stop. This is where I control the billing rates.
Nice.
So now I'm going to change this table so that it's different colors like the other one. I didn't get to that yet. But if I want to change the billing rate, for instance, it's a facilitator here. Let's say I want to change that now. I want to change that to $95 an hour. That's going to change everything I've done all the way through. And because time and a half, well, that's 180.
It doesn't go backwards, though, and changes, correct? It's from that point forward?
That's correct.
Good.
It just means from now on.
Okay.
But now, I just gave a raise. Now, overtime is time and a half. Well, it's now 10...
190.
90. Prevailing rate is one that I wish by Victor. Because many times they have two types of customers out there, and they want to change that. Now, here's the employee. Now that's Victor right there. This is a phony picture I picked off the internet. That's my granddaughter. That's Donald Trump. That's my landlord. This is just one I clicked out. This is Bill Smith is actually a big Wall Street guy of some sort. This is me and me. And
You're twins.
yeah, I know.
They're triplets.
I know. But the point is, I can put in all the email and the information that is controlled inside of the program there. Now, let's see, there's something else I'll show you.
May I see the design area if it's possible?
Yeah, no problem. But let me first show you the heart of everything.
You got it.
This here are the 26 different requirements, and this controls that workflow. And based on what workflow, whatever you get here, will determine the path that it's going to take. So that information can be changed here, or deleted, or controlled. And one more thing.
Nice.
In your proposal, you have an introduction and you have a statement. You can change that 30 days to here, and then every proposal will have that change of information. So if it's a new customer and he wants different verbiage, you can have that his introduction and statement changed at that point. Now I'm going to show you what you want. Now, in this particular case, I need to go over here and click Design.
External integration.
It'll be there in a second. It's setting up.
Oh, no problem.
Here's where you basically have requirements, workflows, and displays, and control the tables. But basically, here are your templates. In this case, I have for Global Latitudes, I have one for the database, another one for proposal, another one here is for the actual survey. This is an assignment table, and that controls for, in this area I have basically 6 different assignment tables based on what they are. And there is, in the workflow, that is what controls it.
Got it. That's what I wanted to see. Okay.
Okay, I got more.
What about external integration? What is that? Before you leave the area, if possible.
External integration, I've not used.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had. Well, this here is where I set up the estimates. These are templates now. You notice there's 6 of them. I'll show you. Let's show you this one. And that basically is setting up for email and everything for that whoever's assigned that task.
So, Arthur, from a business standpoint, what are you thinking you're going to charge the pricing on this? How's that going to go?
Basically, a small company is going to be $250 a month plus $1,000 of sign up. The dealer will get 30% or more, depending on his volume. He will get 30% of my side. Now, engineer will get 150 of that 250. Okay. I will split out the 100 with the customer. However, he will pay more if he doesn't pay quarterly. He'll pay 10% more. Now, larger companies, it goes up progressively, and I'm not going to show you that now because that'll take up too much time. That's the estimate. Let's get out of here. I want to show a couple more to give them an idea. Here's that invoice table. This is, in other words, this was I set up everything. And then I can change it and have it differently, but that's to the invoice. And again, what happens, let's say I want to insert something new. No, I got to go inside first. Let's say customer record.
I will say the interface is so much nicer on this than the previous version.
Oh, it is difference of night and day. I mean, I would have. That's why I changed back, and I had to talk fast because they had intercepted where I was talking, and they picked up on Lincoln that I was going over. Okay?
Yeah.
And we had to change that. Now here's the employee's record. Okay, and however, now we're changing the format here to a solid field because they had difficulty with this, and I'm still using it, but it's better to go to a numbers input. But here's your fields that you have control, so you can put in a drop-down list of whatever you want in here. Okay, new entry button, micro button. You can, in other words, use micros to transfer information. I'm using micros quite a bit, so that I actually have functions that are automated out, and the customer never sees it. Then, get further up here. Here's all the tables. This is.
And you said you were interested in trying to do something to QuickBooks potentially, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I need the interface.
If you have a moment to click on like the integration field, I know you haven't done anything with it. It'll help me better understand it. I'm kind of the QuickBooks guy, so.
Okay. Integration is either Excel
or MASH.
Or MASH.
Thank you.
Reports, I got pie charts, statistical. I didn't go in and show those, but we have them. This is where I can do a search and find a particular based on criteria. And so there's quite a bit of things. Here's the images. So like, for instance, these images here, I can change that image by coming into properties. And I can come here and I can change it. But I'm set up right now on documents to load in instead, so they have to go over through pictures. And I won't bother to go into that now. So. But anyhow, you can see you can change by browsing and bring in any picture that you have on the computer.
Beautiful.
And then you click here if you want the label, so you want to move it around. Okay, any other questions before your meetings now? I know. Is that about it?
That was phenomenal. The information that we were able to see out of it, just even with that period of time, was great. Just to be able to see what can truly be done with it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, really.
It's my pleasure.
Well done, Arthur. And Mike and Matthew, I hope it triggers